Okay, good evening, everyone, once again. So we're going to dive in now. We're going into the second part of this teaching series, if we can call it that, which are visual design principles. So, what is visual design? Visual design focuses on aesthetics and communicates a message to its audience. The goal of visual design is to improve and enhance the overall user experience. And you should know that it is a very important component of effective visual communication. So we should know that with visual design, you are trying to convey a message or an idea to an audience, like visually, so that they can like relate with you, communicate with you, and understand that message you are trying to pass. So with this visual design, we use stuff like typography, color, layout, composition, space. Okay, that's white space and like many other elements, and use all these things to create a visually appealing design that's also very effective. And also in visual design, you use like various mediums to design to what's the word, you use it to communicate to like websites, um applications, print materials like newspapers, magazines, advertising on billboards, packaging like on your juice pack, on your Coca-Cola bottle. That's visual design. And you should know that sorry, can you mute your mic? Someone should please mute your mic. Okay. So what was I? So the overall goal of visual design is to like create a clear language that you can use to communicate with your audience, communicate your message or your values as a brand or as a company or as a product effectively. So visual designers use different tools: Figma, Illustrator, Photoshop, like I said yesterday, um, and if Adobe, the After Effects, yeah, and stuff like that. We should also know that it's very, very critical. Visual design is very, very important, and helps you to reach your target audience. So we're going to move to color theory now. So if at any point you can't hear me, please just speak up, and we can calculate your questions. We'll answer questions after the class. So color theory is the study of how colors work together, how they affect our emotions and perceptions, and how we can use them to create a particular mood or atmosphere. You know that colors are everywhere and they have a significant impact on our lives, from the clothes we wear, colors we choose to paint our walls, to our everyday lives. Colors are very important. One example of how colors affect our moods. There's this was this social experiment where they painted a room pure black. I forgot the name of that pigment. The blackest black. I think that's the best way to describe it. They painted that room the blackest form of black, and people were challenged to stay there for a particular time. So after some time, people started hallucinating, hearing voices. In Nigerian terms, people started running mad. So that's how color can affect everything we do as humans. It can affect your brand. Picking the wrong color as a brand or choosing the wrong color as a brand can like make them just go downhill. Having the right palette, having the right combination of colors can be the difference between you being a good brand or you being a great brand also. So the next thing we're talking about now is the color wheel. So a color wheel is a diagram that's used to represent different colors of the um, spectrum or visible spectrum or light spectrum and their relationships to one another. Usually the color wheel is put in a circle like this, and so we have different hues here falling into different categories. There are usually 12. So that is the color wheel. So we will now discuss the categories of colors now. So these are the categories of colors. We have primary, secondary, and tertiary. I'm sure everybody remembers this from nursery school. Say, what are the types of colors? Primary, secondary, tertiary. So primary colors, they are the building blocks of all other colors. You can any color you can see, any combination of colors you can see in the world, they were built on primary colors, and they are red, blue, and yellow. And these primary colors, you cannot create them by mixing them with other colors. They are the original. They're like the founding fathers of colors. They are the foundation of all types of colors. So next we have the secondary colors. So to get a secondary color, you have to mix two primary colors together. For example, we have orange. Orange is a combination of red and yellow. Green here is a combination of blue and yellow, and purple is a combination of red and blue. So the last category here, or the third category, are the tertiary colors. So they are created by mixing the primary and secondary color. We also have ordinary colors, if I'm right. They are created by mixing secondary and tertiary. I'm not really sure. So for tertiary colors, you can mix red and purple. You can create like a reddish purple color, or what's the name? Magenta. Magenta. You can mix blue and green to give you teal or a shade of teal. So those are tertiary colors. Now, next here is hue, saturation, and volume. So you should know that these terms, these things together, sometimes we call it HSV, like it's written here. Sometimes it's called HSL, where they call value light once in a while. So you should know that these are like very important components in color theory, and they can help you to create different color schemes. So hue is the pure color of an object. Is the purest form of an object. Yes, it's like determined by the position of the color wheel, like I showed before, where there are 12 different hues that can be changed by shade, tone, tint. So hue is the purest form of that color. For example, now I don't know if I should go back. The red hue is at the 12 o'clock of the color wheel. So a good example, for example, now when you try to mine gold, even if you mine gold, when you mine gold and you get it, hue, that's like an example of hue. Before you start changing it to jewelry, gold bars, and stuff like that. So hue is the purest form of that color. So next we have the saturation. Saturation is how pure or intense a given hue is. So it's like the intensity or the purity of that color. A fully saturated color is like really pure and vibrant, while like a desaturated color is closer to like white, black, gray. It makes it less intense. So we should know that saturation is measured in percentages. That's like from 0 to 100%, where 100% is when a color is fully saturated and 0% being desaturated. I think one example I can give for those who stay in Lagos, something you can say like example of something that is highly saturated is the downfall color, downfall yellow, and something that is a bit desaturated should be the color of the shirt that LASMA men wear. So I think it's brighter now. Before it wasn't as bright as it is now. So that's a good example. Another example is I don't know how many of us watched Thor: Love and Thunder. Those scenes where everything was looking like black and white. That's very, very good of desaturation. Every color was desaturated in some scenes in that movie. So that is saturation. So what is value? Value refers to the lightness or the darkness of a color. Value is also measured on a scale of 0 to 100%, like saturation, where 0 is completely black because that's the darkness side, and 100% is it's completely white. So if you have a light pink color, that's like close to close to 100% value. It has a very high value, and like a dark maroon, or deep burgundy, that will have a low value, closer to 0%. So if you want to use, you can use HSV, that's hue, saturation, and value, to create different color schemes. We'll still get to that, palette and stuff like that. So if you want to create monochromatic colors, you can just pick one hue and then variate the value or the saturation to create different color schemes. So understanding hue, saturation, and value helps you create very, very harmonious color schemes. So move to the next part. This is just an example of hue, saturation, and value. So here we can see that the value here is very close to very close to 100, and here is very close to 0. For the saturation also, this is fully saturated, very close to 100 or 100%, and this is close to 0, highly desaturated. So here we have hue, which is the purest form of the colors: yellow, orange, red, purple, magenta, blue, green, and colors like that. Sorry, I'm trying to change the page. So we move to shade, tint, and tone. So shade, tints, and tone are like, they are very, very important because you manipulate colors by adding different variations of like black, white, and gray to them to create different type of colors and different shades, tints, and tonal values. So shade refers is the process of adding black to a color to make it darker. For example, here this is a pure hue. You add black, it becomes a shade. Tint refers to the process of adding white to the color to make it lighter. So have a pure hue, add white, you get your tint. And then tone refers to the process of adding gray to a color to make it less saturated or more saturated. Make it less saturated, sorry. So you add more or less anyone. So you add black and white, or black and white together, that's gray, and then you get a tone. So tint, most times when you add a white to a pure hue, it creates a softer theme and something more delicate, like maybe help you create like pastel colors and stuff like that. So tones also can create subtle and sophisticated looks for your color scheme. So you can use shade, tints, and tones to create different color schemes and color palettes. Also, by mixing and matching them together, you'll be able to create like depth, contrast, and stuff like that in your color schemes. So now we're going to talk about the color temperatures. We have both warm and cool colors. So warm colors have a higher color temperature and are associated with heat, with energy, and excitement. So we use colors here like red, orange, yellow, which are bright colors. We use it in artworks mostly to create a sense of warmth, sense of vibrancy, a sense of passion. That's why for kids stuff, you see them using a lot of yellow because it shows excitement a lot. So cool colors have a lower color temperature and associated with calmness, tranquility, and relaxation. So you see them in different hues of blue, green, purple, various shades and tints. So they are used to create coolness, stability, calmness. And for example, on a rainy day, you see you dull color. You say the weather is dull because that was the shade of the sky, the color of the sky. Then it looks very darkish. So you said that's an example of cool colors. You can also use them to create different color schemes by just variating the colors, adding shades and tones and tints to it also. So next slide. going to be talking about color harmony. We're going to talk about color harmony. I'm going to give examples of how to get color harmony too. So the first here we have are the complementary colors. Complementary colors are usually opposite each other on the color wheel. For example, here we have yellow and purple. A lot of people pick for weddings. You see some people picking yellow and purple. It just goes well, but that's because they are complementary colors and they are on opposite ends of the color wheel. Other example of complementary color here is like red and green, blue and orange. If you wondered, oh, why do these colors go so well? It's because they are complementary colors and they are on opposite sides of the color wheel. That's what makes them complementary. And these colors can be very dynamic and eye-catching because of their contrast to each other. So we also have here analogous colors, analogous harmony. Sorry. So these are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. We can see different types of blue here. We can also pick red, magenta, and purple. That's also analogous. We can pick this green. I think this is like a lime green and yellow. Those are analogous colors, and they are picked together to like create harmony because they are closely related. They are close to each other on the color wheel. That's why they are picked together like that. So another one we have is monochromatic harmony. So you can create monochromatic harmony by using different shades and different tints of a particular color. For example, now we can pick this shade of red in the middle, add a little white to it, create this, or we can move to the side, making it darker, and that's a darker shade of this color. Those are monochromatic colors of using different shades and tints of a particular color, of a single color, and they can be very subtle and sophisticated, or used for sophisticated brands. For example, if you use a shade of brown or a shade of blue, and then you just add shades and tints to it, you can see that they use a lot of that for luxury brands. Like if you take a yellow, a color of yellow which we can call gold, like gold looking color, and add black or white to it, to that particular color, to create shades. That's a very, very good color palette for a luxury brand. But we're not brand designers here, we're UI designers. So another one here is triadic harmony. So we use colors that are evenly spaced around themselves in the color wheel. So we have here orange, green, and purple. We can also have red, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to give examples of like having these colors together. And the last one I'll be mentioning here, there are other color harmonies, is tetradic color scheme. Tetradic color scheme uses 4 colors around the color wheel that are evenly spaced. This is blue, green, orange, and red. They are around each other, like they are evenly spaced on the color wheel. So to give it this very, very dynamic effect. So I'm going to show us an example of how we can get our color harmony, color palette. I will share another part of my screen. Okay, so one particular website I like using to find color palettes or color harmonies, create color harmonies, is Coolors. It's a very, very nice website that sometimes gives you ready-made palettes. So let's just start the generator. Let's start with that one. It gives you ready-made palettes, or sometimes you can pick a particular color you want and then they'll give you different ones. Now look at this example. This is a very, very nice color palette for if you're doing something soft, something feminine kind of. This is a very good color palette for that. Oh, now I pressed the space button and it changed. You can see another one. It generates random color palette. You can also be specific, tell them you don't want them to generate random palettes for you, and then you explore trending palettes. For example, now you want to do something for green energy. If you want to do a design, if you're the one picking the colors for a, what's the word? Eco-friendly, yes, eco-friendly application, green, go green, save the planet. You can pick green color palettes. This color palette now is something very, very good for something eco-friendly. Then now, if you want to do something for like children, I think let me just search kids. Something will come. Okay, let's see kid. Let's see if they have something for children. Okay, they don't. Okay, they have. Oh, they have kids here. No color palette now. Party. Okay, if you want to combine words, you have to subscribe. Let's check party. Why don't they have any of this? Okay, I think maybe we should just search bright, something bright. Yes, if you want to build something for children, something like this that has very, very bright colors, like I mentioned, accessibility in design yesterday. So this should be very, very good for children. But this kind of color contrast will be too bright for elderly people. You can also search other things like Christmas. If you are designing for a Christmas centered application, these are very, very wonderful color palettes. Or if you have an app or a wedding planning app, okay, no, let's check space. Yes, this is even very, very perfect for a space application, maybe for like NASA. This 000, I usually advise designers not to use. This is like the darkest kind of dark you can find on the RGB scale, and I usually advise people not to use it because the contrast is too high. So you can use something softer and a softer shade of black. For example, let's see. Okay, this is a very, very good alternative. Instead of using black 0000 in your designs, you can use this. I think that's a bit too dark. You can use something like this 161A 1D. That's something you can use. So this is the way you can get color palette. Another way you can find color palette is Adobe Color. Let's look at it. This one has a lot of color. You can even like search to the name of those particular harmony. Now I explained analogous. This is example. Now you can move it. It gives you analogous colors that are based on this particular one, this middle one. Okay, let's try square. Square is also the tetradic one that we mentioned. You just move it around and it gives you colors based on that. We have complementary here. Let's try that out. So opposite sides of the color wheel. This is complementary. Is there anything like shades? Yes, okay, shades. It gives you different shades of a particular color, like this. Then we have monochromatic. Also, it's very, very similar to shades, but there are slight differences. So I think, well, let me give you an example of a project I did that combined a lot of colors that you wouldn't think should be together, but they worked well because now one very, very good color palette is combining the three primary colors. That's the yellow, blue, and red. Just combining those three primary colors alone allows you to create this. Now, okay, so that's that. You can, I think I'll send the links to also, won't forget, Colors and Adobe Color. Those two sites are like things that I use to get color palettes a lot. I use it for inspirations a lot too. Okay, back to Figma. So next thing I'm going to be talking about is RGB and CMYK. So RGB stands for red, green, and blue. It's an additive color model that the primary colors red, green, and blue of light are added together in various ways to produce broad array of colors. So it's written here that RGB is an additive model. This is the color model that is used mostly in digital media, like our laptop screens, phone, computers, monitors, TVs, and billboards. Yes, those video billboards. That is where we use the CMYK color model mostly. You can CMYK, you create at full intensity here. Example here, you mix the red, green, and blue colors at full intensity. They create the color white. When you add them together, and when you subtract them, they create the color black when you subtract them. So the next one is CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, where key is black. It's a subtractive model and it is based on the CMYK color model and is used in printing or print media. The other one is used for digital media. So here for this one, it's the color that I use for inks. If you open your printer, you will not see red, orange, yellow. No, you'll see CMYK. Those are usually the colors in a printer when you want to print stuff on white paper. So they use it in newspapers, in magazines, in brochures. And when you combine these four colors, it creates black. And when you subtract them, it creates white. So remember, RGB is for digital media, CMYK is for print media. But mostly in our line of work, that's UI design, we are concerned with RGB, mostly brand designers that work with CMYK. So now we're going to move to color psychology. So what is this color psychology? I know we've heard it a lot in different places. So what is color psychology? It is the study of how colors affect perceptions and behaviors. I mentioned it earlier of that social experiment of how they painted the room that color of black. So unconscious or otherwise, you know that color can evoke emotions, inspire reactions, can change your modes of thinking. So let me just next one. So now we have red. It shows excitement, strength, love, energy, danger, and stuff like that. But we should know that sometimes color psychology is not, you can't really put it in a box because in different cultures and different traditions around the world, colors can mean very, very different things. I mean, here now in Nigeria, red means stop, and the what they call that thing, traffic lights. It can also mean danger, alert, error. Like that's what red stands for. But in Chinese culture, red is the color for good luck. So we shouldn't just put color psychology in a box and say, okay, because red means this, yellow means this, I have to use it. No, it can represent different things in very, very different cultures for different people. So orange represents confidence, success, bravery, sociability. Also represents creativity, warmth, enthusiasm, playfulness also. So I'll still go through how they are in like different brands and colors they use. So we have yellow, represents creativity, happiness, also warmth and cheer, optimism and sunshine. You can see that yellow is usually used a lot for children's stuff because for children it has to be like really, really bright. So green represents nature, healing, freshness, quality, growth, harmony, and even balance sometimes. So blue, the national color of fintech. That's what I call blue. Almost every fintech was using blue at a particular time. So blue represents trust, peace, loyalty, competence, calmness also, trust. Okay, I mentioned trust already. I think that's why a lot of fintechs and banking apps use blue because it shows trust, it shows intelligence also. So we have pink, represents compassion, sincerity, sophistication, and something sweet. It's also like a color for femininity. I think a lot of people have broken that stereotype. Also a color for romance or love. That's like darker shades of pink can represent love. So purple can stand for royalty, luxury, spirituality, ambition, um, creativity also. So there's this story about how purple gained its color for as it was known as the color for royalty, because when they were still using, what's the word for it? I'm sorry. When the method of getting colors in the medieval times or medieval times was very stressful, and purple was one of the hardest colors to obtain. So because it was hard to obtain, it was very expensive, and only the royals could afford it. So that's why purple is associated with royalty. So we have brown, dependable, rugged, trustworthy, and simple. If you see any like climbing, outdoor activity kind of stuff, they use that color brown a lot. So black also for formality, very dramatic color for sophistication, for security, for power. Black denotes power. White denotes it's clean, denotes simplicity, honesty, sorry, and also purity and cleanliness. If you when we watch a lot of movies, we can see that um white, when they show God or any divine character, they are always protracted or shown wearing white, because that color, it represents purity, it represents holiness. So for the food and beverage industry, like I said, I'll mention each industry and what colors they mostly use. I noticed they use a lot of red, orange, and yellows because they are very bright, and they promote, like, they make you excited. And research has shown that these three colors can actually stimulate appetite. If you notice, uh, tasty fried chicken, KFC, Chicken Republic, these colors use red, orange, yellow in various ways. The place? I don't know. The place is a lot in Lagos. Abroad, we have places like McDonald's. We have Burger King. We have Wendy's. These people use red. We have Jollibees in Asia. These people use a lot of red, orange, and yellow because they stimulate appetite, and they create a sense of urgency and make people excited. So in tech, like I said, I call blue the national color of fintech because it's related to trust, security, reliability, makes them look very, very competent. A lot of banking apps use the color blue. We have First Bank, if I'm right, yes, Union, which other bank uses blue, and a few other fintech applications. It's recently that we've seen fintech apps moving away from the traditional blue color. So for healthcare also uses blue because it shows trust. It's the calming color. It is peaceful, and they also use green because green promotes healing. It promotes freshness. So a lot of the healthcare industry uses these colors a lot. So in the beauty industry, we use a lot of colors like pink and purple, show luxury, show femininity, show a bit of sophistication. And then for automotive, like for cars, motorcycles, they use a lot of red, black, and silver. Those are the major colors. You can get silver by mixing black, white, and what other color? And gray. So just black and white, you can get different shades of silver. So they use these three colors because they show power, red, a very powerful color, black, very, very strong, and then silver. They have they use a very sharp shade of sharp color of silver to show like, oh, this is very powerful, to show speed. When they are doing adverts and they come to like the side of the car, where from the mirror to that door side, and they show that side where the car is sleek, it shows like it is sleek, it shows it's elegant. That's why they use those colors. In the finance industry, they use blue, they use gold, they use green, because all these colors show a lot of stability. So that's how colors can affect everything we do in our everyday life. Like for example, now yellow and orange is used a lot for education. I think I mentioned for children because it has to be bright, very very bright for children. So color psychology can be applied in our daily lives. Everything we do, we can use it. So I've also shown us how to like create color palettes. You can use colors, you can use Adobe Color. So to create a color palette, one of the first things you do is to know, okay, why am I creating this color palette? If you had brand designers now, you say, okay, is it for a logo? Is it for a painting? If I'm an artist, is it for an illustration? Is it for a website? Is it for an application? Do I want to paint a house? So before you can create the color palette, you have to know why. Okay, why am I doing this? So next thing you do is choose a base color. Okay, for example, now you are creating something for a like for health. So you could now say, well, let me pick a green color. So when you pick a particular base color, that base color can help you create a color palette because it's around that color that all other colors will revolve around. So when you pick your base color, you now choose like a color harmony. Okay, do you want it smooth and luxurious? Use something monochromatic. Do you want it bright? You can use tetradic or triadic, stuff like that. So that's you can use that. So you can now add like shades, tints, but most times Adobe Color will do that for you already to add accent colors and like to allow you to test your color palette. You can see everything on their website. So now we're going to be talking about typography. Typography is another very, very, very important thing in um, visual design. Is the art and technique of arranging type to make written language legible, readable, and appealing when displayed. So it is a fundamental element of design that involves the arrangement of type to create visually appealing, readable, effective communication. So when you are facing something visual, it must just not be appealing, it must be understandable. People must be able to read it, must be legible, must be readable. So understanding the principles of typography can greatly enhance the effectiveness of a design and it can make it more engaging and impactful. So you can use typography involves using like different typefaces, sizes, weight, spacing, alignments to create readable text. It must also be visually appealing. So you should know that each typeface has a unique character. Excuse me, every typeface is unique, just like every human being has a fingerprint that is unique from every other person in the world. That's the same way every typeface is very unique. So you can use typography in every field: UI, branding, advertising, health. You need to read to convey information a lot. So you should know that typography is a very, very fundamental element. So typeface versus font. A lot of people make this mistake, even me once in a while. So the words typeface and font are usually interchanged, but they have very, very different meaning. A typeface is a collection of design characters that share a common visual style and are intended to be used together, while a font refers to a particular weight, style, or size of the typeface. So a typeface is a collection while a font is specific. Now, look at the example now. This typeface is Roboto, but under the font is like a child. The typeface is like the parent. The font is a child. So under Roboto, we have Roboto thin, light, regular, medium, bold, black. We can also have like Roboto condensed, Roboto italics, and stuff like that. So one particular font can have almost 50. Sorry, I made that mistake. One particular typeface can have almost 50 fonts. It's a mistake we make a lot, interchanging the word typeface and font. So that just if you want to remember, typeface is the parent, font is a child. The font is under the typeface. That's the best way to remember the difference between typeface and font. So we have type classification. So this is how you categorize different typefaces based on their visual visual characteristics, and sometimes based on history also. If we start with the history of type now, this would be a different type of course, and I don't know much about the history of type, but I know that typefaces started when they started the what's the name of that thing? The Gutenberg printing press, where printers were arranged like metals together for people, and then paint it and then press it on paper. That's how the printing press started. So over time, people started developing better typefaces and stuff like that. Yeah. So we have serif, sans serifs, display, scripts, and monoface, monospace. Sorry, those are the type classifications. Okay, I just want to confirm if you can still hear me. Can you hear me? I don't want it to be like I'm just talking to myself. Can you hear me? Please just indicate. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'll go on. So we have type classification, like I mentioned before. We have serif. So you know that serifs have like small lines at the end of their strokes. Okay, it is even circled here. This is a serif font. You see, at the end of the T, the top of the T, that is a serif. Here, also at the bottom of this capital T, is a serif. This here is a serif. Here too, at the back of the R, that's a serif. Um, Here under the R is a serif. This protruded part beneath the I and the F, those are also serifs. So they get their names from that line at the end. That is a serif. They have serifs at their end. And I think serifs are like the oldest form of types that we have. That's what they started with when they were having the printing press and stuff like that. So we have sans serif. I think sans, is it Greek or Latin? It means no or none. I'm not sure, I'll confirm. So sans serif means it doesn't have a serif. So they do not have serifs, and they are mostly known for like modern minimalistic design, and we mostly use it as a more modern type of serif, and we use it like online for digital stuff. I think I'm trying to remember the first sans serif font. I think it was Futura, Futura. I think that's the first sans serif font. I can't remember who did it, but that's one of like the first sans serif fonts. These serifs also have like different classifications, like different things under them, but because it's not really a branding class, I'm not sure if we should go into it. So, for example, now under serifs, you can classify it like old style, traditional, and like more modern serifs. Then for sans serif, they are grotesque. Anytime you see like all those letter G that looks like two O's joined together, yeah, those are grotesque sans serif. We also have neo-grotesque, humanist, and geometric sans serifs. So next we have display. So display typefaces, they are usually used at larger sizes for headlines or titles or something big, because they have like very unique and like distinctive looks, and they have this very strong visual impact. When you see them, they bam, they go into your face because they are bold, they are big. So display typefaces are not usually used for body text, because the smaller they get, the harder they become to read. So you don't usually use display um, classifications for body text. Usually use serifs or sans serifs, because I know that for serifs we use it a lot in newspapers, even books we use a lot of serifs, and for sans serifs also that's what we use a lot on uh, online stuff and digital media. So next we have script. So scripts, they are made to mimic handwriting or calligraphy. As you can see, this is called the Biacchetto typeface. So it's used to mimic handwriting or calligraphy, and they're usually known for like elegance, formality. That's why you see a lot of script classifications for wedding invitations. You see a lot of script writings there. That's how it's meant to look. And for greeting cards a lot, and they're also not used or body text, because the smaller they become, the harder they become to read. Like this one, even as big as it is, it's a bit difficult. The readability is a bit hard. So that's why we don't use script fonts for anything small. It's just for heading text. For example, Jide words Shola, Jide and Shola will be scripts, and maybe words will be maybe a sans serif or a serif. So the last one we have there is monospace. So you know, monospace typefaces, they are fixed width characters. Now, if you how do I mean like fixed width characters? So they take up the same horizontal space. For example, now you can draw, if you draw a box around this letter M, or this is what's this, Ubuntu monospace, and you move that same box to the O, you see that the letter M and the O occupy the same space of that box. You move it to the P, they occupy the same, is it length? No, the same breadth of that box, not the same height, the same breadth. Same thing for this Korea new monospace. Just draw a box around this M, for example. You move it, you realize the O occupies that same space. Same thing here. I think the typeface I've been using for the class is Roboto monospace. So if you can see the writings here too, just put a box and you notice that every character, lowercase, if they are all lowercase, they occupy that same fixed width of that. So mostly if you see this monospace type, they are usually used in coding for stuff like visuals, VS Code, and stuff like that, yeah, because they help align code easily because of their this squareness or rectangleness, and they are very, very easy to read. Okay, so what are typeface families? A typeface family is a group of related typefaces which share similar design characteristics and are designed to like work together. So, like I mentioned before, typeface versus font. It's a type family is a combination. It consists of like various fonts with different weights, styles. Like this Myriad Pro regular. Another weight of it will be this Myriad Pro black. Another style will be Myriad Pro italic. Another style will be Myriad Pro condensed. So these are type families under a particular typeface, and you can use type families to also create hierarchy. If you don't really know how to combine fonts yet, combine typefaces yet, sorry, you can use different families from that particular typeface. You can, for example, make your header text Myriad Pro bold, and then your body text Myriad Pro regular. So that's one thing you can do with typefaces. So we're going to move now to legibility and readability. So legibility refers to the degree which text is easy to read and comprehend. So like you have to create, like when you're putting text together, one major factor you must know that it is legible. How easy is it to for people, for your users to be able to read and like comprehend what you are putting there. If you are creating, for example, now you are creating a health app, do you know that the legibility and the readability of your text is the difference between life and death? When you think of it, I think people become more serious with that, because picking the wrong typeface that is not legible means someone will go and buy, for example, the wrong prescription, the person get the wrong drug, and that can lead to the person's death. So you should know that legibility, I know that's quite an extreme, but you should know that legibility and readability are very, very, very important. So these are factors that affect legibility. We have the X height. So X height is the height of the lowercase x from the baseline. So between here and here, that is the X height. And you should know that the taller the X height, the more legible it is to read. If you notice, script fonts also, they have short or small X height. That's why it is hard for them to be like very, very legible. So another one here is character width. So you should see, as you can see here now, we have from normal to very condensed and very wide. You know that condensed text are harder to read than normal, like well extended text or stuff like that. So you should know that the easiest designs to read, like they should be average, like this, not too big. When it's big, it just occupies unnecessary space, and not too small that your users are unable to read it. So the next one is weight. You should know that when something is extremely light or extremely heavy or extremely bold, it is hard, very hard to read. So you should try to stick to the middle around here for your users. It makes it very easy to comprehend, to read. That's why we use regular fonts, regular weight for a lot of our body text, so that it's people can easily understand it. So the next one here are design traits. So the overall shape of the typeface, how it looks. Is it fun? Is it serious? This can help people understand. It's like putting the wrong typeface in the wrong place sometimes. If you are doing something for children, the children's website, and then you put something like a, a script font. Number one, children are not trained, their eyes are not like really trained to understand such yet. And then it's hard for them to understand. What they want is something big, bold. You just use like a decorative font, decorative typeface that's very easy for them to see. And then you can use a sans serif typeface for body text so that they will easily understand it. So the next one is stroke contrast. So the what's the word? Is it the ratio? Yes, the ratio of thick to thin of the strokes. That is stroke contrast. It must not be too small and it must not be too big, because at when, for example, now this Baskerville typeface, if you make it very, very small, you will notice that you will not be able to see this smaller stroke. That's why you have to like balance out your stroke contrast when you are selecting typefaces. So the next one is serif or not. Is if your typeface has a serif or not. So people have said a lot that serifs enhance legibility, because of the bend or the stroke or the outline at the end of the letter. But sometimes it's not always true, because number one, what's the word? I can't remember the particular one. Just know that whether you pick your serif, if you're picking a serif or a sans serif, it contributes to how legible your typeface or your product will be. So sans serif, the reason why people can pick sans serif actually can be because a particular type of typeface, whether it's serif or sans serif, is, I think, because of, is it culture I will use, because a lot of what we're using in your country or whatever can determine what type of typeface you use. So some particular countries, I think the US, they use a lot of serif fonts, sans serif, and then you see that a lot of their products in that area use sans serif font typefaces. I'm still making that mistake. So next is readability. Readability is about how easily you can read your words or documents as a whole. So you should know that just like just like how your text must be legible, must also be readable. They work hand in hand together. So what are the factors that determine readability? Type size. You can't you can't make something tiny and expect people to understand. The smaller the size, the harder it is to read. This is like very, very true for elders or the elderly or seniors. If you are making a product application website for like pensioners and you are using tiny fonts, your your products will not work well, because you have to use something that is easy for them to use. Children also, you cannot use something very, very small for children. And also for those with visual impairments, some people sometimes um, maybe they see with one eye, or those that use glasses, short-sighted, long-sighted people. You have to create, you pick your typefaces and your type size based on this. This is also under accessibility in design, like we discussed yesterday. So number two is typecase. So now, for example, you cannot use um, higher higher case letters or all caps for a very, very, very long text. It's going to be, it looks weird. It's challenging to read because of so many, like, when you are moving through the text, it just looks like you're going through a long journey. That's why we usually use capital letters for like header text, and stick with a combination of small and capital letters for body text or for sentences. So you have to stick to um, lowercase letters, like combination of them for your body text, because it improves readability. So we have leading. It's not leading, it is leading. So leading is also known as line spacing. It's the amount of space in between two lines. So you should know that when something is tight, like when the line spacing is not enough, it makes readability very, very, very hard. So you have to have like a very, 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 very okay line space. I think I use between 1.2 px and 1.5 px for my line spaces. So the next is line height or line length. So you just have to, oh, sorry, I picked the wrong picture. I meant to say line length, not line height. So when I talk about line length, it is how long a particular like sentence is. For example, now I think the standard for having the line length should not be more than 40, shouldn't be more than 70 or 60 characters. I can't really remember. So if you make it too long or too voluminous, it can make your users bored and then like move to the next thing, or just move to the next product entirely. So number five here we have kerning and tracking. Kerning is adjusting the space between letters, while tracking is adjusting, like kerning is between a pair of letters. Like for example here we have this P and E, while tracking is between a bunch of letters. We mostly use kerning for logo designs. If you want to reduce the space between them to make very beautiful logos. While tracking is used for like a larger body of text. So the next one here we have color and contrast. So you should make sure you have enough contrast between your type and your background, because if the contrast is not enough, your the text will not be legible. Now we have examples of bad here, a good one. So just make sure your contrast is not dramatic that people will not understand. So you just have to variate your color, your background color, your text color, once you get the right contrast. So the next here we have rags, rivers, orphans, and widows. So these are all typography terminologies that like describe the action of a page. A good example is this, like if you are typing on Microsoft Word. Yeah. So a rag is when, or rags is when your body of text is uneven. For example, look at this. Excuse me. Look at this now. This looks like a straight. Oh, not perfectly straight, but looks like an almost straight alignment on that side. And so the text looks like it fits very well in that column. And when you look at this body of text here, you see it keeps moving like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. Those are bad rags. So you can like use line breaks. Like line breaks, if you are typing, you press enter, it breaks, line breaks. So that's one thing you can use to correct rags. So rivers are like not like rivers are gaps in between your body of text or a block of text, and they create this like this channel kind of in between text, and it can be very very distracting because it makes readers follow that space instead of they follow the space instead of following the flow of the text you put there. So also to remove this, you can also um, you use line breaks. You can justify, change the alignment, increase the kerning or the tracking, or reduce it, increase the line height, and stuff like that. Those are the things you can use to correct all these visual issues. So the last ones here we have are orphans and widows. So orphan is a single word that sits, or a line of words that sits at the excuse me, appears at the end of a paragraph and is separated from the rest of the paragraph. So this is too short. It is an orphan. That is meant to extend past the midpoint. So the widow, on the other hand, it appears at the beginning of a new page. That's why I said it's best to use Microsoft. Okay, imagine you're typing on Microsoft and you have page one, page two. So yeah, on page two now you have a paragraph, but before that paragraph you have like one line from the former paragraph in page one. That's one line is the widow. You can adjust the font size, you can adjust the spacing to get everything to be on one page. So those are widows, orphans, rags, and rivers. And finally, we'll be talking about font combinations. So you have the type family is a group of related typefaces which share similar design. Okay, so when you want to combine fonts or typefaces for UI designs, it has to depend on the context. What am I designing for? You know, what's the brand? What is the industry? You know, what kind of user experience am I trying to create? What kind of what's the demography? What group of people am I creating this product for? Those are things that help you pick font. So these are like common font combinations. This is a very popular one, Roboto and Open Sans. You can see they are both sans serif fonts. They don't have um, strokes at the end of their letters. Roboto is very modern. It's kind of sleek, and Open Sans is something we're used to. It's a classic font. So we also have Lato and Montserrat. They are both also sans serif fonts. So it's look at it now. Look at this Montserrat and Lato. It looks sophisticated. If you want to create something for like a what's the word? Like a luxury, like a hotel website. Yes, this is a font combination you can use. We have Playfair Display and Source Sans Pro. It combines a serif font. This is a serif font. You can see it has strokes at the end, and also a sans serif font. So it is balanced. It's very classic and classic. So we also have Railway and Meriwether. I think this is something you can use for e-commerce websites because Railway is thin and it's elegant, and Meriwether is a sans serif font that is very very readable and legible and easy to understand. We have Oswald and Roboto. Oswald is more or less a more condensed type of font. You can see that it looks like it's squeezed together. What I mean by condensed. Roboto is sleek, is modern, is a bit wide. Lastly, we have Laura and Inter. Laura is also a sans serif font. Well, so Laura is a serif font, while Inter is a sans serif font. And mixing Laura said mixing sans serif and serif fonts helps is usually a very 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 good balance together. So that is the end of today's class. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for listening. So does anyone have any question? You can start taking questions now. If you have any question?
Don't. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't don't really have any question. I just wanted to say thank you that I really enjoyed the class.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does anyone have any questions? You can also send your questions later to the group if you have questions. Okay. I don't think anyone has any question. Okay. So, in the absence of questions, I want to say, well, let me stop the recording first. Sorry.